Bạn đang chỉ tìm một công việc hay một sự nghiệp đầy cơ hội thăng tiến? Bạn hài lòng với những lý thuyết trong sách vở hay muốn tham gia những dự án tầm cỡ thế giới? Bạn thỏa hiệp với một vị trí tạm ổn hay bứt phá để tạo vị thế riêng? HCL, tập đoàn công nghệ hàng đầu thế giới trong 44 năm qua, nay đã đến Việt Nam để giúp bạn kiến tạo tương lai, cùng bạn định hướng sự nghiệp và khai mở tiềm năng từ hôm nay để bạn sẵn sàng lập trình ngày mai. Từ hàng không đến ngân hàng, từ bán lẻ đến y tế, từ dầu khí đến du lịch, vận tải và logistics, HCL đã và đang giúp các đối tác dẫn đầu trong mọi lĩnh vực. Với những mối quan hệ chiến lược bền vững, với hơn 153.000 nhân tài trẻ năng động từ khắp các châu lục, với sản phẩm và dịch vụ tân tiến đáp ứng từng yêu cầu riêng biệt, HCL đã cải tiến các hoạt động của doanh nghiệp tại hơn 55 quốc gia. Giờ đây, bạn hoàn toàn có thể cùng chúng tôi bước tiếp. Gia nhập HCL ngay!
Vâng, xin được gửi lời chào và lời chúc sức khỏe, đồng thời cảm ơn sự hiện diện của quý khách trong sự kiện Discovering New Opportunity in Blockchain, được tổ chức bởi tập đoàn công nghệ HCL Technologies ngày hôm nay. Good morning, I would like to send my greeting and thanks for your presence in today's virtual session, Discovering New Opportunity in Blockchain, organized by HCL Technologies. Thưa các bạn, blockchain là một trong những xu hướng công nghệ được nhắc đến nhiều nhất trong những năm gần đây và là đây là công nghệ nền tảng ứng dụng vào nhiều lĩnh vực như ngân hàng, tài chính, quản lý nhận diện và vận tải, chăm sóc sức khỏe, vân vân. Đến với hội thảo ngày hôm nay thì các chuyên gia công nghệ của HCL Technology sẽ mang đến những kiến thức chuyên sâu và các ứng dụng thực tế, đồng thời chia sẻ về lộ trình thăng tiến cũng như các cơ hội việc làm tại HCL Việt Nam. Blockchain is one of the technology trends mentioned most in the recent years. This is a foundation technology applied to many fields such as banking, finance, transportation, healthcare, and so on. So coming to this virtual session, HCL Technologies IT expert will bringing in-depth knowledge and practical applications. At the same time, they will share about the career path as well as job opportunities at HCL Việt Nam. Và nếu các bạn có câu hỏi, vui lòng comment bên dưới, chúng tôi sẽ giải đáp tại phiên hỏi đáp cuối chương trình. Và if you have any questions, please comment below and we will answer at the Q&A session. Thank you. Và để bắt đầu thì tôi xin mời ông Ravi, giám đốc phụ trách HCL Việt Nam, lên có đôi lời phát biểu. So to begin, I would like to invite Mr. Ravi, Resident Director of HCL Việt Nam, to have a speech. Please.
Thank you, Catherine. Good morning and xin chào to all of you. Thank you for joining the 6th edition of HCL Technologies Tech Talk series, where we are today going to be talking about blockchain. My name is Ravi. I'm the Resident Director for HCL Technologies, and I'm here based in Hanoi. I'll be briefly talking about HCL Technologies, introducing to you about our organization, talking about HCL Vietnam before handing over to my colleagues, Vineet and Shivendra, who will talk about today's topic, that is blockchain. Let me begin. Next slide, please. HCL is a 44-year-old global IT services company. We started way back in 1976. We are today at a revenue of close to $10.2 billion, with a total employee base of 168,000. Spread across 50 countries. Being a global organization, we have 157 nationalities working for us. And recently, we have come into Vietnam to start a global delivery center. And we've got all of our employees who are from the country. And we are inviting more and more people to come and join us to help us grow this into a big global delivery center to address opportunities that are available to us for global, regional, and local business. In 2020, Forbes had conducted a survey where HCL was ranked as #1 as the best employer in India, and globally we have been ranked as number 30. This shows the journey of HCL starting from 1976, where we founded the company. And in 78, we had come up with our first 8-bit computer, which was 3 years ahead of IBM. Then in 1989, we moved into Unix-based machines, where we came up with a 32-bit multiprocessor. 1997, HCL ventured into software, and ever since we have been growing into software. Uh, in 2018, we moved into IT software products, where we acquired a suite of products from IBM, which was worth $1.5 billion of acquisition. Now these products are getting developed, upgraded, and we are supporting our global customers on these products. Some of these products you might be knowing, like Lotus Domino, WebSphere, AppScan. Now, all of these are HCL products where we have invested a lot in developing these and supporting these products. And a similar center for support is being brought into Vietnam. We have also strengthened our relationships with our partners like Google and Microsoft, where we have started dedicated Google Cloud and Google and Microsoft business units, where we are concentrating on the cloud technologies and taking these services to the global customers that we already have. This slide showcases our geographic presence in the world, starting in the east from Japan, going all the way back to the west coast of the US. Then we are in South America, Africa, Europe, Middle East, Australia, New Zealand. And you can see Vietnam as the center that has been set up in 2020. And we are now engaging in growing this center and already started delivering services from here. HCL has an integrated portfolio of services and products, three clear areas: IT and business services. IT services includes application management, infrastructure management, digital transformation, digital business operations are also coming under this particular bucket. In the center, you can see the engineering and R&D services, where we've been doing a lot of product engineering, product development, testing, and we have been working closely with our global customers. The third is the IT products and platforms business that I briefly talked about, where we are investing a lot and developing IPs and then supporting these products and platforms for our global customers. HCL's overall strategy in IT services revolves around three key pillars: efficiency and reliability. That is getting covered in the mode 1, which is basically application services, infrastructure services, engineering and R&D services, and digital process operations. This is contributing to roughly 63% of our revenue. In the middle, we have the new technologies, or as we call it, mode 2, towards agility, experience, insights, and transformation. So here we have digital and analytics, big data, Internet of Things, AI, ML, cloud native, cybersecurity, digital engineering, and blockchain is also coming under the mode 2 services of HCL, contributing overall to around $2 billion of our revenue. Mode 3 is the product innovation that we're already doing on the products and platforms. This is contributing to roughly $1.6 billion of our revenue. So apart from our own delivery centers, HCL has also set up multiple innovation labs. Some of these are co-innovation labs with our strategic partners and strategic customers, and some of these are HCL-owned labs. So just wanted to give you an example of a typical setup that we have on the cybersecurity fusion center that we have set up in the US, in Europe, in India. And similarly, we are building a similar kind of a cybersecurity fusion center in Vietnam, where we'll be delivering services from Vietnam and also setting up, security operations center. Blockchain is another area where we are very keen to work on, and we will be concentrating and working on this blockchain area in Vietnam, primarily because of the kind of digital transformation that has kickstarted in Vietnam across the financial services and the manufacturing sector. HCL has a very focused approach to the industry sectors that we focus on. So we are focusing on banking and financial services, which includes insurance and capital markets. Manufacturing, both industrial and process companies are there. So discrete manufacturing, process manufacturing, automotive, aerospace. We work very closely with the technology companies and technology partners. So we have customers like Google, where we do a lot of work for Google as a partner. So Google, SAP, Cisco, Microsoft are the technology customers of ours. On the telecom side, we've been working, closely with some of the big giants like Ericsson, Nokia. Viettel is another, potential customer of ours that we've been looking around, and we would like to work closely with them in Vietnam. And we are actually bringing some of these industry sector domains experience into Vietnam, where we'll be servicing from here. Similarly, retail and CPG and life sciences and healthcare are another areas where we want to focus on. So 10 out of 10 global pharmaceutical companies work with HCL. To name a few: Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson, Merck, AstraZeneca. And also the medical device companies, where we have been doing a lot of product engineering work under the engineering and R&D services. So these are, again, some of the verticals that are our focus areas in Vietnam. We already have the projects, and we are now delivering the services from here. A very clear focus, as I mentioned in my previous slide. On the right side, you can see our vision to create a global development center in emerging information technology destination, Vietnam, bringing in IT services, engineering and R&D services, infrastructure management, IT products and platforms. And another key element is going to be the global innovation centers for strategic customers and go global Fortune 500 engagements that we have, and those customers who want to set up their innovation centers in Vietnam. So that is again a focus area for us. Clear strategy: Vietnam for global, Vietnam for regional, and Vietnam for local. When I talk about regional, Vietnam Delivery Center will be servicing all the North Asian countries, including Japan, Korea, Taiwan, apart from the Southeast Asian countries from where we already have some of the business flowing into Vietnam. We are getting it delivered from here. The blue circles showcase the industry sectors where we are focusing on currently. So banking, insurance, retail, CPG, medical devices, pharmaceuticals, automobiles, and manufacturing are the key verticals we have already started working on, and we have already started delivering services from here. Our focus is to have at least 95% of our work pool to come from local Vietnam talent that is available in the market. And also we are leveraging the fresher talent that is there in the various universities, where we already have tie-ups, where we work closely in skilling the fresh graduates into new technologies areas, and then bringing them into Vietnam Center of HCL as full-time employees. Next slide, please. Some of the recognitions that we have got from the various analysts like Gartner, Forrester, Everest Group, IDC, on the kind of engagements that we've been having. So it covers digital, cloud, IoT, cybersecurity, AI, and digital workplace services. This slide talks about our core values. As a philosophy, HCL believes in the employee first philosophy, which talks about employee first, customer second, which essentially means that since we are in the services sector and employees are our biggest assets, so we need to treat our employees well so that they can go ahead and treat the customers well. So we have a lot of focus on employee first philosophy, and this is an HR intervention that we do. We believe in trust, transparency, and flexibility in all our engagements, be it with the employees, the partners, or the customers. every engagement that we have, there is a focus on the value that we bring to the table. So there's value centricity. All the relationships that we have another philosophy which goes like relationship beyond the contract, which essentially means that even though we might be having the contract on the paper, but we want to have a long-term relationship with our customers and our partners. So we do go beyond the contract and start servicing those partners and customers, and adding value to the relationship that we have. Apart from the business angle, we are a socially responsible organization, and we have been, delivering a lot of CSR initiatives in India, and some of these are going to come into Vietnam as well. What differentiates us? Our culture, very innovative culture, where all the employees, we call them as ideapreneurs, which essentially means the employees are free to come up with new ideas, bring it to us, bring it to their team leaders, and those ideas could actually get converted into new products, new business lines. And that is the openness that we have, and we encourage all our employees to be innovative and to think about new areas how to solve the business problems. So innovation, culture, and everything depends on the outcome that we bring to the table, to the relationships that we have with the customers, the partners, and also the employees. With this, I would like to hand over to Vineet Gogia from the blockchain team. He will talk about blockchain, and then Shivendra will take over from him. So over to you, Vineet.
Thanks, Ravi. Hi, everyone. Good morning and good afternoon. I hope you all can hear me well. My name is Vineet Gogia. I'm based in Gurgaon. It is quite near to the New Delhi office and Noida offices of HCL Technologies. We can move on to the next slide, please. So I have been part of the practice for almost 5-6 years. Started and created this practice to almost 5 to 6 years back, when blockchain was a buzzword. Blockchain was just coming up, and not many organizations in the world had adopted blockchain. So that's what the time when HCL really started with working on blockchain. So a little bit of a pioneer there in terms of usage of this technology. So what is blockchain? So let's understand the blockchain as a concept itself. You can go to the last slide itself, the previous slide. So blockchain is a distributed ledger, decentralized ledger. A lot of words here. It's a decentralized ledger technology that records continuously growing list of transactions. Now, what does it really mean is that it's a decentralized technology. In the other technologies that we know, organizations create their own master copies or their own local copies. For example, their own ERP systems or CRM systems that organizations have. But blockchain is a technology which goes beyond the domains of an enterprise. It goes beyond the boundaries of an enterprise, and it allows 2 or 3 different organizations or multiple different organizations to interact with each other. And when they interact with each other, it's important that all of them are equivalent to each other. So let's say 3 or 4 banks, they become part of blockchain network. All 4 of the banks or 5 of the banks will have the same level of access to the databases. So this decentralized ledger means, each one of these participants will have their own database. These databases are decentralized. Each bank will have their own copy of the database, which are always in sync with each other. And they will have their own copies of the database, which are always there. And this is continuously growing. So any transactions which happens between bank A and B and C and so on, this is appended as a sequence, as a list to the previously created transactions. And this entire list that is created, it is cryptographically secured. That is why the blockchain system is said to be immutable. Immutable as in, it is difficult, it is not possible to break it. It is very, very secure. And it is immutable in the sense, once you record a transaction on blockchain, it is just not possible even for the administrator to change it. So those are some of the characteristics. We'll go into some of the details as we go forward. Please go forward. Next slide, please. So the blockchain technology actually came into being as through a system or a cryptocurrency that was launched about 10 or 12 years back, through a pseudonym called Satoshi Nakamoto. So that's a pseudonym that somebody launched Bitcoin almost 12 years back, and Bitcoin is the first use case for blockchain. Bitcoin is not the only blockchain, but Bitcoin is the first use case. That is when the Bitcoin was launched. That is when this technology came into being. So you could say easily that Bitcoin was the first example of blockchain that came into being. And from there on, the blockchain technology has only evolved. It was a very simplistic use case, and the Bitcoin can support only one use case of blockchain, which is the cryptocurrency use case. But as we know now, blockchain can support huge number of use cases, thousands and thousands of use cases, supply chain, manufacturing. It's into banking, cross-border payments, trade finance, and so on and so forth. There are thousands of use cases in which this is created. So Bitcoin is not the only blockchain, but blockchain is much more than Bitcoin. Yeah, we can move on, please. So what really is the difference is that Bitcoin was created with a very simple protocol, as the algorithm that was used to create Bitcoin was very simple enough, uh, and can be used only for cryptocurrency. But if you want to create any more use cases on top of it, let's say for a supply chain, for track and trace, or for provenance, stuff like that, you want to use while it is possible, or all these use cases are possible on blockchain, Bitcoin protocol, the mathematical logic of Bitcoin doesn't support it. So around 2013 or 14, more complex blockchains started to emerge, such as Ethereum. They started to emerge, and those were much more suitable for businesses. And Ethereum, for example, brought in the concept of smart contracts, which is business logic that you can put on blockchain. Before that, it was not possible. And once you put the business logic on blockchain, you can start to do a lot of contract work. For example, contracts between two different organizations, such as insurance organizations. They do a lot of underwriting and so on. So a lot of these things, more complex algorithms and logics could be started to put on blockchain. Track and trace was possible thereafter. Yeah. So that is where the logic of the concept of blockchain was taken to a higher level, and blockchain for business is a much more evolved concept as compared to Bitcoin. We can move on, please. Next slide. Yeah. So what are the different elements of blockchain? Whenever we read the definition of blockchain, or whenever we come across, what is blockchain, we see these terms. We can go through each one of those one by one to understand what really it is. So it is distributed and decentralized, which means all the parties, all the organizations which are participating in the system of network, they all own their own copy of the ledger, or ledger as the database, and if anybody changes it with the permission, with the consensus of different participants, the data gets replicated to other databases. So if bank A, let's say Citibank, changes the data in its own database, it will also be replicated to the database of other banks at the same time, which means they will have the real-time view of what's changing. So it is distributed, it is decentralized. There is no central parties. There is no, for example, a central bank which is holding these transactions, which is enabling these transactions. So it is disintermediating. By disintermediating, it means that the central agency, which we probably believe in, for example, a reserve bank or a central bank, it is not really required from the nature of technology. So it allows to remove the intermediaries. For example, for bank transfers, when money is transferred from bank A to bank B, from, let's say, from Vietnam to London, it goes through a lot of intermediaries, goes through a lot of channels. When by the use of blockchain technology, all these intermediary channels are removed, and we will see some of these examples as we go forward. Secure, it is practically impossible to break the blockchain network, by virtue that it is sequentially cryptographically secured. So you put in one transaction 1 followed by transaction 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on, and each one of these is always cryptographically very secured. Now what that means is that the longer the chain becomes, and you want to break it, it takes a huge amount of computing power, very, very powerful supercomputers it would take to even break that kind of a chain, which is practically impossible. That is why the reason that blockchain, the Bitcoin core network, has never been broken. It has never been possible to break out. There could be bugs or anything else, but it has never been broken. It is forward looking and immutable. So once the data is added, once the change is done into the network, it is not possible to change it. There is this concept of permission versus public blockchain. So Bitcoin is an example of public blockchain. Anybody can create a node, anybody can create their own blockchain Bitcoin database and start to interact with the main Bitcoin database. However, in the enterprise world, that is now how it works, because banks want to interact with only a select number of banks, or insurance organizations want to interact only with a select number of insurance organizations, and so on. So they create their own networks, which are called as permission. They give permission to the different organizations which want to join it. Otherwise, it is not possible for anybody. Let's say I want to join a network which is created by banks. It is just not possible. The next concept is smart contracts, which is equivalent of the contracts that are created in paper right now. So the logics can now be added to blockchain on a network, and it is practically impossible. These become immutable. So you've seen that blockchain is a technology which allows peer-to-peer transactions. It is not a centralized technology. It allows decentralization, and the ledgers are interconnected to each other rather than going through an intermediary. Each node can talk to any other nodes, as you can see on the right hand side. Yeah, we can move on. One of the primary example use case, and one of the first example use cases that you will, when somebody is studying blockchain, is cross-border payment. So let's say if a friend of mine wants to transfer money from London to myself sitting in Vietnam, it goes through a lot of channels. It will go through bank in Switzerland, a Swift network, or maybe some intermediary which is international transaction banking, and so on and so on, right? That is because the network right now is not trustworthy. So a bank will interact with only that bank which it trusts. So let's say HSBC Bank in London will send it to some intermediary bank in London, and then so on and so forth. We can change the slide. But what happens in a blockchain world is that the companies, the bank in London and the bank in Vietnam, they can come on the same blockchain ledger, and they can interact directly. Because once they put the data transaction on the blockchain, it cannot be changed. It is immutable. It is very secure. So there is no chance that either of these participants can later deny that this transaction has happened. So this is a very straightforward example. But if you see, a lot of these channels which existed in between company A and company B, all those are gone. So they start to interact directly. So this is a typical example. It leads to a lot of efficiency, faster money transfers, and it is much more efficient, and cost saving is there in such an example. And similarly, there are thousands of other use cases which exhibit the same efficiency. We can move on. So the different kind of blockchains that exist in the world, there are, for example, public blockchains which are more centric towards use cases such as cryptocurrency. These are Bitcoin centric, or for example, even Ethers or Ethereum mainnet. It's a public blockchain. Anybody can create a network and try to work on it. I can download a blockchain Bitcoin node, and I can try to be part of the Bitcoin node. But in the enterprise world, that's not how it works. So typically we create private networks. So we want people to join only specific people to join those networks. For example, banks would want only banks and reputed bankers to join their network. And the way it works is that sometimes 3 or 4 banks will come together and they will form a consortium. Yeah, they will put together the first network. Or there might be an anchor or a first bank that might come and say, I will put together the network, and then I will try to invite everybody else. So there are different models in which it can work. For example, there could be an anchor model, or there could be a consortium model. Different banks coming together, forming an organization, and then that runs the network for them. So there are multiple varieties, and these are just a few examples of how different types of blockchain networks exist and how they operate. Yeah, we can move on. So here is some examples of the work done in Vietnam on blockchain. I'll hand it over to my colleague Shivendra to talk about this and take it forward. Shivendra,
Hey, thank
over to you.
Puneet. Thank you for enlightening us on blockchain. So, guys, good morning. Sinchao. My name is Shivendra Yadav. I'm again based out in New Delhi, and yeah, so the journey is exciting in blockchain, right? Blockchain is doing a lot in all across the globe, and what is happening in Vietnam is the public sector, which is adopting blockchain. So, for example, the HCM city is going to have blockchain in their smart city network along with AI, along with machine learning. So, blockchain will be used in payments, in electricity. So, all these kind of reconciliation will happen in HCM city in Vietnam. Then Vietnam government has recently created a digital identity platform which is called AKA Chain with FPT softwares to build a digital identity solution, right? And the government is also researching on cryptos, and Ministry of Education has already adopted blockchain for record keeping. So yeah, so there is a lot of work which is happening. There are just few snippets, but the journey is going to be very exciting in blockchain. Next slide, please. All right, so when we talk about HCL, we are more focused on enterprises, and that is where our main play is. So when it comes to blockchain for enterprises, we typically see the following considerations or following characteristics, whether the use case is a fit or not for a blockchain implementation. So first one is reconciliation. If there is a reconciliation involved, for example, let's say reconciliation of books of accounts or reconciliation of goods and services at the end of the month or at the end of the quarter, we typically look at blockchain to do that, because blockchain holds immutable records. Those can be easily reconciled at the end of a particular period. It can be a month or a quarter. Then if there are inter-organizational processes, so blockchain, if you guys have understood till now, is dependent on a network of organizations. So whenever there is inter-organization settlement, that is where we believe that blockchain is a fantastic use case. Then if there are multiple participants in the value chain, and each of them is adding value in terms of adding data or utilizing that data onto the network, then it makes a lot of sense. And the last one is if there is a double spend problem. So for example, one goods or service being sold to two parties. For example, one good has been sold to different parties. So if there is a double spend problem and asset ownership problem, then we use blockchain, because blockchain holds the data real time. And as soon as the transaction is made, everyone on the network knows that this transaction has been made. So there is no chance of double spend on blockchain. Yeah, next slide. All right, so what is the difference between a traditional project? So till now you have understood that blockchain has capabilities, but what is the difference between a traditional project and a blockchain project? So in traditional project, whenever we develop something, we provide application as the end result. We develop something based on different programming languages, we give the application and the user uses that application. But in case of a blockchain, there's obviously an application, but there is a business network which is running the complete blockchain. And without the business network, the application is of no use. So running a blockchain network is highly important, and that is where it differentiates from a traditional project, right? Next slide. All right, so what is the business case then? For a traditional project, it is simple. It is the business case of the application, which means what is going to be my cost, what is going to be my ROI in terms of how many users I will get, or what kind of commercials I will charge for this application to the customer. So this typically becomes the business case for the application. But in case of blockchain, obviously there is a case for application, because you are developing it, you are creating, you are putting resources and your money around it. But there is business case for network. So once the application is being developed, we have to provide the network their business case. So for example, what is the outcome which a participant will get if he joins my network? So that is the business case for that particular participant. So nobody will join a blockchain network without a business sense, right? So they must be getting some return on investment of joining a particular network. So you might have seen that there are various trade consortiums, there are various food network consortiums which are there across the world, and whosoever joins that network typically looks at a business case. So whatever I'm investing, how am I going to get a return out of it? So that is the main difference between a traditional project and a blockchain project. And next one. All right, so just looking at a higher level, what blockchain can do for an automotive company. For example, a manufacturing company who is into manufacturing of automotives or manufacturing cars and LCVs and high commercial vehicles, high density commercial vehicles. What will happen for them? So for those organizations, typically what happens is these manufacturers need to know from which location their raw materials or their parts are coming from their suppliers, and their suppliers can go till tier 6 or 7. So primary supplier, then tier 2, tier 3, tier 4. There can be n number of tiers of those suppliers because automotive is a very complex domain, right? So they want to track where the part is coming from, who has touched that part, and at what point that part will reach to their manufacturing facility. So first of all, they want to know at the real-time basis where exactly the part is. Another aspect is they want to make sure at the time of product recall or at the time of any kind of defect in the vehicle, they can pinpoint that particular part and the asset ownership to a particular supplier, that this part has been supplied by you and this got faulty, now we need to replace it. So that cost has to be taken by the supplier. So to make that accountability, they need some ledger which is agreed upon between suppliers and the manufacturing organization, and that ledger can be blockchain because the ledger is same with suppliers and the central warehouses and the manufacturing organization. Everyone holds the same ledger, so there is no matter of dispute. Yeah, go back to the previous slide. Yeah, this one. No, this one, the manufacturing. Yeah. So that is the whole thing. So when you put something like this on blockchain, first of all, you will get an immutable record and you will get real-time track and trace of your parts which you are sending to the manufacturers. So this is highly important. We have done this case study for one of the customers based in Europe, and it really made a business sense for them because now they can real-time track what is happening in their inventory. Yeah, next slide. All right, so this is our capability in blockchain, what HCL does, and we are highly focused in Vietnam. We are focused all across the globe, actually, with 120 plus, and I think this count is more now. So we have been rated as leaders by various analysts in the industry on a continuous basis the last 3-4 years, and we have mentioned some of the recent wins. Then we have around 20 plus customers, which are continuously growing on platforms like Hyperledger, Ethereum, Corda, and deployments happening on Amazon Web Services, Azure, and IBM Cloud. So majorly, 90% of what enterprise blockchain is, that is something which we cater to. So anything which happens on Hyperledger, Ethereum, and Corda enterprises, we typically are into this. Then we have certified professionals across these platforms on specifically on Hyperledger and Corda, Ethereum as well. But we have a practice which is very deep into Hyperledger and R3 Corda. Then there are multiple blockchain IPs and frameworks which we have developed. One of the frameworks is a co-trust blockchain platform, which gives the organization or the user using it the power to create their blockchain in a matter of few days rather than months. If you typically go to Hyperledger, you download the vanilla version of Hyperledger, you might take months to create an enterprise version out of enterprise use case out of that open source version of Hyperledger. But using co-trust platform, that journey can be shortened significantly by up to 60 to 70%. Then co-trust Ops Manager is one of the platforms which manages the operations. Once the blockchain is deployed, how do you manage operations on blockchain? For example, adding users, removing users, adding participants, creating channels. All these things can be done using Ops Manager. And one of the interesting solutions which we have recently developed is around tokenization. So we have a platform called CodeTrust Obol, which helps in creating tokens for high value digital assets. So if for example, there can be a real estate building which is of very high value, hundreds of millions of dollars, right? We can tokenize it into fractions in a digital asset shape. And this is being done using CodeTrust Obol platform. And the good part is that CodeTrust is available on AWS Marketplace, which anyone can go and consume free of cost. And if you would like, you can try. Then there are multiple platforms which we have. For example, in terms of business case, we talked about network business case and application business case. How a customer can create it, they can come to us, ask for a business case, we will help them out. Then in the recent past, we have seen that people are more focused towards testing of blockchain in production. So whenever blockchain goes into production, how do you test it so that it works fine in an enterprise scenario? So that we have a framework which is like extensive and which can help the customer take that journey, right? And we are part of majority of the alliances, Enterprise Ethereum Alliance, Bita, and many more. Yeah. Next one. All right, so this is what I was talking about. This is CodeTrust on AWS. If you go to Google, type CodeTrust AWS Marketplace and just press enter, you will find the first offering, which is coming as CodeTrust on AWS. Now there are two versions available. Now what is the functionality in CodeTrust? You can go there, set up the complete Hyperledger environment with two organizations and start playing. Install your chain code, invoke chain queries. It has Ops Manager also to manage operations, and it has Hyperledger Explorer to manage the blockchain environment. So it is a fantastic offering. Just go there. If you have time, the technical folks who are listening to this, just go there on AWS Marketplace, try it out, and see what CodeTrust can do for you. Next one. Right, so this is Obol. As I talked about, this is a tokenization platform for creating tokens of high value assets. Anything which is of high value, we can create tokens using a Obol platform. We are going to take this offering as SaaS, which means a user can sign up and just start creating his tokens. And mind you, this is a non-technical offering in the sense that people who are coming from a non-tech background also can use Obol. There is no coding required. It is easily customizable, and it can be easily integrated with existing applications. So it's a beautiful offering. If people who are listening who are interested, they can reach out to us. We'll be happy to have a discussion on this. Next one. All right, so this is a very unique thing called Hyperledger Support Services. People who understand blockchain a bit, they know that Hyperledger is one of the platforms which is leading the enterprise blockchain scenario. So Hyperledger, what happens is if you go to if you download the community version of Hyperledger from hyperledger.org, you will get no support on Hyperledger because that's an open source version, and typically this is the truth with every open source offering which is there in the market. So what happens is, although people like Hyperledger open source version and they like the functionality, the openness of Hyperledger, but at the time of the actual implementation or going into production, they do not know what typically we have to how we will get a support for Hyperledger, right? So that is where we come into the play, and we say that even if you are running Hyperledger Fabric open source in your environment, you want to take it to production, we will support it using Hyperledger Support Services. So HCL supports it in a monthly subscription based model, no long-term contracts, and we support majorly everything. I mean, in terms of different cloud providers offerings or different Hyperledger offerings, Hyperledger 1.4 and 2.2, or even if you have deployed it on premise, we'll support it on a pay-as-you-go model. So no need of hiring your own resources, no need to tech refresh or train the resources. We will manage everything for you on a pay-as-you-go model. Right. Next one. All right. So this is an exciting thing. So how can you be part of this journey within HCL? So from a technology perspective, Generally, if you're a beginner who understands Java, we hire people as software engineers, programmers. And then if you have some bit of understanding of Hyperledger or Ethereum or R3 Corda, typically the journey starts with senior software engineer. Then you gradually move to tech lead, which handles which might handle one or two engineers, and then architect and senior architect. And then you go on to take the journey for 15-20 years. Then you become principal consultant for blockchain. So this is the technical part. Very simple. Java resources, but you should have an understanding on public clouds, infrastructure as a service at least, and the containers aspect, Docker and Kubernetes framework, right? And if you know Python, it is good to have, but not mandatory, right? Next one. All right, but what if you are coming from a non-technical background, maybe coming from a technical background, but your aspiration is to be in the business side of the things? So the path is that you can become a consultant, a functional consultant, which starts with a senior executive, where you are coming from, let's say, from a management background, or you are coming from technical and management background, and you understand, you have traits around problem solving and good presentation skills and good critical thinking skills within you. You can join it at a senior executive level, and then you gradually can move on to a functional consultant. And then functional consultants typically works on a project to create user stories, to create agile life cycle management. And you can then go on to become a product manager. You can handle individual products within blockchain, and then the journey can lead to a global product lead, where you can handle multiple products in the portfolio with product managers under you. And then you can become a program director, in the longer run. So this is about the journey. I hope this session was useful. We could add value to your existing knowledge. And yeah, we are excited if come ask questions, whatever you have. Thank you.
Thank you, Sivendras and Vinesh, for your wonderful presentations. So, vâng, và phần chia sẻ vừa rồi cũng đã khép lại nội dung chính của chương trình ngày hôm nay. Tiếp theo đây tôi xin đến với phần Q&A, và nếu như các bạn có thắc mắc thì vui lòng để lại câu hỏi ở phần comment. So, and this sharing also close the main topic of our event today. Now, let's move on to the Q&A sessions. If you have any questions, please comment below. We are happy to answer.
So Shivendra, there is one question which has already come up. It says that if I want to work in this field at HCL, what are the requirements, recruitment requirements?
Sorry, Ravi, working as what? Sorry, I didn't get that.
It says that if I want to work in this field at HCL, what are the recruitment requirements? Which you already answered. Maybe you can answer again on like you mentioned Java, you mentioned Python, so maybe you can just put more inputs. Basic requirements to come and work for you.
Right. So there are two things. If you are choosing the technical path, as I mentioned, Java is sort of mandatory, because at least the person should understand Java. Then I think gradually he can be trained. We are talking about a initial level, a junior level, and programmer level. But if a person joins it at lateral stages, like around 6-7 years of experience, then we expect them to understand at least Hyperledger and Ethereum, and they should have worked on 1 or 2 projects at least. When it comes to functional side of the things, we take people generally who are coming from the management background, and people who have a tech degree in the bachelor's, and coming from a master's in management, and people who have good critical understanding. They understand blockchain from a use case perspective, from an industry application perspective. So that is what we look for in a candidate.
And to add to what Shivendra has said, anybody who is interested to know more about the opportunities, they are free to reach out to us, share their email IDs, share their profiles, and we can look into this.
Thank you for your answers. And another question. Besides
Yes.
banking, can blockchain be applied in the other industry in Vietnam?
Yeah, maybe I can
Right.
take that question.
Yes, please.
Yeah. So yes. Not specifically to Vietnam, but also across the globe, blockchain can be used for multiple industries. So banking, of course, is one of the pioneers which started it. And in addition to banking, it is insurance, it is manufacturing, it is high tech industry, it is supply chain industries, logistics. Everywhere, I think there are use cases. We have done some use cases for very, very different kind of organizations, like even government. There are possibilities. We've done it for an art creator as well, art insurer, art creator, artists and so on. So blockchain can be used for a lot of industries.
And
Banking is probably the only
Vineet,
first one.
I think you had also talked about briefly the real estate.
Yeah, tokenization is a great example, and tokenization can be applied to real estate. Tokenization can be applied to anything which is high net worth. It could be pearls, it could be art which runs into millions of dollars, it could be real estate. So a lot of industries, even owning stocks of industries, can be tokenized. Cryptocurrencies can be tokenized. So a lot of use cases apply to multiple industries. Yeah.
Maybe Vineet, briefly, if you can just explain what tokenization is for some people who might not be understanding it.
Yeah, tokenization is breaking the units of ownership for anything which is very high net worth. For example, if there is a building in central Hanoi, which will be in millions of dollars or probably billions of dollars. Now, I want to take an ownership into it, but I cannot, of course, own the entire building. I do not have that kind of money, but I want to have a stake in this. Typically, this is done by stock holding, stock market, and so on. But there are things outside the stock market also. For example, the real estate. And if the real estate company tokenizes it, what they will do is they will issue tokens on hyper on blockchain, and they will issue to different people. Like, for example, I will subscribe to maybe 2 or 3 tokens I will take, and so on. So that token means a part ownership of whatever entities it is. So you could have tokenization for real estate. You can have tokenization for very highly valuable paintings. For example, if somebody wants to own a painting, a piece of the part in the Leonardo da Vinci's painting, which will be millions of dollars, I could still take a part. Maybe I'll buy 1,000 tokens of a million tokens that are issued, but I'll have a part ownership. So tokenization means creating tokens, creating part ownership that any individual retail person can also take a stake in.
So basically, it also means that in the case of Bitcoin, because the Bitcoin valuation is pretty high, and not many people are able to buy the Bitcoin, so they can buy a part of that Bitcoin through
For
the
the
token.
Bitcoin. That's right. Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you.
I
I
hope
think
I'm able to answer.
yes, the answer is really clear. And I think this is the last question. Can Python be applied in blockchain? Python.
Shivendra, you want to take it? Can
Yeah.
Python be applied into blockchain?
Yeah, so Python obviously can be applied in many places. For example, in terms of scripting, if you want to do, you can do it using Python. And specifically, when it comes to testing, there can be certain testing framework like PyTest and others in which Python knowledge is useful. So for us, if a candidate has good Python understanding, it's a real advantage because it can be multiplied, it can be utilized and multiplied in various ways. So yeah.
Okay, thank you for your answers. And yes, so I think that because of time, we are running out of time, so we will close the topic here. So before closing, please complete the feedback form and share, which we are sharing in the chat box. Your feedback is very important for us to improve the quality for the next webinar. And I hope that today's event will bring you useful knowledge. If you have interest in career opportunity at HCL Vietnam, please visit our website hclvietnam.com to find out available jobs. And thank you to attending our virtual sessions and have a good weekend. Vâng, và trước khi kết thúc thì xin hãy dành khoảng 2 phút để hoàn thiện feedback form. Những phản hồi của các bạn là rất quan trọng với chúng tôi và là tiền đề để nâng cao chất lượng những buổi hội thảo tiếp theo. Và hy vọng rằng là buổi hội thảo ngày hôm nay đã mang đến cho các bạn những kiến thức bổ ích cho công việc. Và nếu như các bạn quan tâm đến cơ hội việc làm tại HCL Việt Nam thì vui lòng truy cập vào website của chúng tôi là hclvietnam.com để xem các vị trí đang tuyển dụng. Và một lần nữa thì mình xin cảm ơn các vị khách quý và đã dành thời gian tham dự hội thảo và chúc mọi người một cuối tuần tràn đầy niềm vui và ý nghĩa. Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks everyone. Thank you, Ravi.
Thank you.
and team.